They trap mosquitoes, and if you've ever been out riding, you'll notice that there's cages around that has, some of them have chickens in them, and some of them have birds, and they go by there a couple of times a week and draw blood on those fowl and take it to the lab and check to see if they are infected with West Nile. But this is about the first West Nile mosquito they found in the area. This year, it's found on Lake Norconian, which they go in there regular and treat it for mosquitoes, as they do every body of water in the county. And I've been on one of their little tours with their technicians before, and there's a lot of bodies of water around, and they treat the ones up in the hills in the open area. They treat along the river. They treat Lake Norconian. They treat around Wayne Macon Park and over there. And so far, I don't know of anybody in town that's had any, that's contacted West Nile this year, nor do I know of any horses. And I've only heard of one horse in the state. We'll get another report tomorrow at the board meeting, but I've only heard of one horse in the state this year having West Nile. So it's better just to be safe and everybody protect themselves, wear long sleeves, use your mosquito spray and everything. And if we hear anything, we'll all have it put in the weekly highlights and everything. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Berwin. Robin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On August 3rd, Ted and I met with Frank and some folks from CDFA, if I'm not mistaken, to look at the biosecurity plan for Ingalls Park and being proactive about that particular document instead of reactive. And Frank and his staff have done a lot of work on that document, and the veterinarians that were there were quite pleased with the work and said, you know, that the group is on the right track as far as that is concerned. And the biggest thing on that, I think, is education for the public and those using the facilities on proper protocols for our animals that are in and out of the facilities. And then on August 11th, I had the pleasure of hosting the last concert of the summer concerts in the park. And I was quite pleased with the turnout, and the band was wonderful in my opinion. So I was super excited to be able to host that group on Friday night. And I would like to give special thanks to the sponsors and obviously Parks and Rec for all the work that they do. It seemed to me like attendance was up all summer, and really a great series of concerts for our residents and a good way for them all to come together and relax. So much appreciation to your staff. That's it.
Thank you.
I'm going to ditto the concert thing, Brian, tell your staff, and I know Jeff is here tonight, but excellent choice of bands this year. Could you turn the heat down a little bit, though, this summer, if you can, next year? I appreciate it. I like Robin, and I'll follow up on that with the biosecurity. And what's good is that they're going to, Frankie learned one thing, we're going to concentrate on what we have most in Norco, the horses and the chickens, to make sure we keep, people need to know. Education is the key here. Other meetings I attended a LAFCO ad hoc committee meeting on the islands and the pockets of unincorporated areas that are throughout the county. Out of the 40-some unincorporated pockets that we have in the county, we've kind of narrowed it down, or they did, to at least 11 they're going to target and try to get cities to either annex them into there at a special consideration. And part of the meetings they'll have is they're going to request that a city manager or one of his representative, along with somebody from planning and an elected official, come to these meetings, and they're going to discuss it, especially those 11 to 12 areas that they're going to try to get the cities to adopt. If under the new law that was adopted back in 2000, 2001, there doesn't need to be objection, because of the county sees those as an easy way for them to give services to them. And it's a select number of areas. So even if the residents objected, they would still, they would come, it would be adopted. So we'll see more of that as it comes about. And it's just the county trying to clean up areas that they can't serve very easily. That's what they're trying to do. Other that, Berwin forgot to tell you that we represented NART at the National Night Out there tonight. It was a great turnout. Scott, Eric, good job by the public safety for bringing out all the toys. And I guess it's going to travel back to Eastville next year, right? As the rotation goes?
I'm not sure, but yes, it's basically rotated 2 to 3 contracts to use
Okay.
out of the Rupa Valley Station.
Good turnout by your staff and the crews and everybody else, so thank you. And Scott, I know you know the engine had to leave. It's, next year we're gonna hang the horse from the ladder to stop traffic on the freeway. It was a good job. And Brian, your staff did an excellent job representing the city there. It was a beautiful booth, probably one of the nicer ones compared. Everything was there, everything that means Norco was at that booth, and it really looked good. So pass that on to your staff, they did a good job. Had a Veterans Executive Committee meeting. Hopefully, Brian, we're gonna get something to bring to the council here in October.
Maybe by September 2nd.
Okay, I'm gonna make sure,
Second meeting in September.
I'm gonna hold you to that, it's okay, all right. All right, so there, and then just a reminder to everyone, while you're here, so we don't wait till the end of the meeting, this weekend, the Norco Mountain Posse PRCA starts its 33rd year of rodeo, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Please, this is tradition here in town, and since I was one of the founding members, I encourage you all to go. And then finally, as a Norco alumni, 50 years. This year begins 1967, so the football, high school started, football season starts next Friday night. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Kevin?
My RCA meeting was canceled and WRCOG pretty much recovered everything. I did attend the Chamber of Commerce today, their monthly luncheon, and there was a presentation by Waste Management, which was very interesting. I also attended a Rotary meeting. One of the things we're doing is we're beginning to look for funding for some of the things we want to do at the memorial, the MIA Memorial and the Blue and Gold Star Mothers Memorial, the things we're working on. And one of our new members of the Veterans Committee is actually with them, and we're hoping they're going to give us $5,000, we're hoping. I have a meeting next week with Monster and different places like that to sort of see how they feel about it. I attended the Historic Commission meeting, and they asked me to come because they're getting ready for their big sort of unveiling during the LNCF event in October. And I have to admit, Chuck is doing a great job. He is doing a great job. He is getting things really organized, and I think they're going to have a lot of cool things to show, and they were very excited. They didn't have to say much. It was pretty cool. I attended several small Riverside high voltage meetings, and I have to tell you, increasingly more and more Norconians are showing up to these. And quite honestly, I just don't understand why Riverside is pushing this. I just don't understand it. We've come out against it, but I just don't understand it. I don't understand. I know, and Edison has nothing to do with it. I get that. They're just kind of the facilitator. Please know that once again, to Brian, I had a meeting for the wheelchair basketball tournament, and Michelle has it wired. It's unbelievable. We anticipate 20 teams. We're the only sanctioned wheelchair basketball tournament in Riverside County, San Bernardino County. And so we're anticipating, as many of you know, wheelchair basketball was born in the city of Norco. The first official game occurred here. Vernie Fletcher, some of you remember, fell ill, and he was dehydrated on vacation, and so send your prayers to him. I got to do a walkthrough at the River in Corydon, our new development, and it's amazing. That is going to be such an amazing shopping center. I'm very excited. Don't forget our December 7th, we have a tentative agreement from the Admiral to come, and then what I'm going to do is when the Admiral's going to be visiting in a few weeks apparently, and I'm going to see if Ted and I can go over there and see if we can get his band to come here and do a concert. Ted came up with the idea to do a concert to help raise money for our memorial. Veterans Committee. Film Festival for the 50th anniversary. If you know anybody who's a filmmaker, we're looking for films now to show in February for the 50th anniversary of Norco High School. I have some really strange ones. So, and then finally, to kind of give a final thing on hangar 385. Some of you know we sent a letter and we tried to save the hangar, and it was torn down a couple weeks ago. I had a gentleman come up to me at a meeting I was at Riverside, and he said, I really appreciate the fact that, you know, Norco cares about their history and you care about the hangar and you tried to save it. He said, because I received my son there. And one of the things that was not in the HABS report, which is unforgivable, that no elected official would help us, that's where Marines came home. And that was not in the HABS report. A HABS report is supposed to tell, when you tear down a historic building, and it's on the National Register, you're supposed to tell the story for future generations. And how you forget to talk about Marines who've been killed in action, and that's where they delivered them, and that's not in the report. Shame on everybody who did not help me. It just makes me so mad. So hopefully, the baloney that you build one and tear down another, we can get our congressman, and no offense to the congressman, but it just makes me mad that that wasn't in that report. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Well, I don't have too much. Our Chino DeSalter Authority Board meeting was canceled, so I got to go to National Night Out, and Lieutenant, Chief, and Parks and Rec, you guys did good. It was fun to visit with y'all. Except you weren't there, Scott.
That's so important. You kept everything.
You represented you well. Let's go ahead and move to City Council consent items. Does any member wish to pull any items?
Item D, please.
D or B?
Yeah, D is in dog.
Okay. I'll go ahead and pull E. I'll entertain a motion for the rest.
Second?
Councilmembers Hannah,
Yes.
Grunmeyer,
Yes.
Bash,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoffman,
Yes.
Mayor Newton.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Item 2D, Robin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I pulled this to say thank you, thank you, thank you for getting grant money to do amazing things for our community and in particular for our schools and our kids. A lot of us know, we've made a joke already today about, oh, nobody speeds in Norco, but we know, or anybody that drives in front of a school, when it is drop-off time, knows how incredibly dangerous it is. And for city staff to work on getting a grant to put all of these things in front of all of our schools, kudos, and thank you so, so much. And the fact that additional funds are not expected to exceed $7,000. Job well done. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, I had a question on this, just a small one. In the staff report where it says like 2 and then parentheses 6 solar powered feedback signs, and then item 2 says 4 parentheses 10 solar powered rectangular beacons. And then I went back to this purchase order and I was just I'm just having a hard time reading 2 meaning 6 and 4 meaning 10.
Yeah, you're correct. I mean, that's the error. Again, there's going to be a total of 6 solar-powered feedback signs.
Okay.
We put them in pairs. In these 3 locations, we're going to put them, so that's an error on my part. And the other one, it should be 5, because again, they're in pairs. So it's
Not a 4.
It's not a 4. It should be 10, but this total, so we're pairing them up
Got
on
it.
every crosswalk. So,
All right.
yes.
Yeah, that was throwing me a little bit. And my last little question on that is, why would we pay sales tax on this?
We have to pay sales tax on the
You
products
do?
we purchase.
Yeah, we're not exempt.
Yeah,
We're not exempt?
I wish.
Did you make us exempt?
No.
Okay. But it's good to see, I just, yeah, on the purchase order. So, Kevin?
You answered some of my questions, but I also want to point out that WRCOG, Rick's already left. Can you be sure to thank him, and Chad, good job on this, because this is actually a grant from WRCOG. So this is yet another place where we're able to partner up with the county and to receive money, do something that I agree with Robin is super important. So You were responsible for this? Are you the one that did this, or Andy, who did this?
It was a joint effort as far as from Roger, myself, and Andy, but again, it's really WRCOG making money available and giving us the ability to pick these kind of programs that made it possible.
Yeah, I really want to highlight that our partnership with WRCOG has been outstanding.
And it's also really helped at first attempts also.
Yes,
What
and
we've
that was,
already done.
that was a great project that
Yeah,
the council
absolutely.
directed and wanted. It became our benchmark for what we want to do in city. Hopefully, there's future grants, WRCOG, in the following year, maybe we continue and do this with the rest of the other schools.
Second.
Councilmembers Hannah,
Yes.
Grunmeyer,
Yes.
Bash,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoffman.
Yes.
Mayor Newton.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. On item 2E, Chad, I just had a couple of little questions. On our capacity, I was trying to understand this correctly. Currently, our conveyance is 2.5 million gallons per day, right? And
Our conveyance is 2.2. It should be 2.2. We bought another 500,000 in the expansion to get us to 2.7.
okay, because this said conveyance 2.5, capacity 2.2. First page of staff report.
Sorry.
So then,
I'll have to verify what, maybe just to clarify.
Okay.
Yeah.
but I guess what I'm trying to get at is, then we have a capacity right of 2.7 million gallons a day. That, how much are we putting in to the treatment plant?
We currently, our average is about 1.8 million gallons a day.
1.8? So if you take that, that will have a capacity of 2.7, so we can go up to another 900,000 gallons a day, but let's just call it 1 million gallons a day for easy round numbers. Are we allowed at any point, can we lease capacity to another agency? Does that possibility exist in this JPA?
I'm not sure, because in past issues, when somebody has done, the example of JCSD, they have in the past exceeded their capacity. They've kind of used the JPA's total capacity to help, to give them extra capacity, but they pay a premium for it.
Okay.
And we basically, the administrator gives us a credit because we're giving some of our capacity. I don't claim to understand how they do it, if it's equal in some way, if Norco didn't use some and Western didn't use some, Home Gardens, did they each share in that, how it's done? But I'm not sure that if we effectively can just say, I'm going to give my 500,000 to JCSD. It's certainly a possibility. It's something that the JPA would entertain as far as discussion, and if it wasn't prohibited, allowed, they could certainly change the rules to allow it. Because that's the benefit of JPA, is the members can change the rules. So we didn't want to.
Knowing that we're good on capacity and way into the future, that, so let's say JCSD, they run over. Are you saying then we get a share of that credit, or does that all go to, when they're paying a premium, to be over capacity?
Right. They basically pay us or the other groups that have capacity for using that capacity.
So we get a portion of that?
Currently now, yes, is what I believe how it's done.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to be a concern for JCs in the future because they bought quite a bit of capacity because of their expected future demands. But right now they are using capacity from other agencies that's being unused.
Okay. Then my last question is, and this is just more of a frustration, and I should really hold Hoffman's feet to the fire, but how did we start with a 12 million gallon project at 44,000, or 44 million, excuse me, and we add 2 million gallons per day, and the project goes up almost $30 million?
I wish I knew the answer. I don't, honestly don't have the history.
I just, it's beyond me with this bunch.
I had that same conversation at the last meeting. And by the way, it's, the RICO plant will be 14 billion gallons.
Yeah, 14 million
it's 14,
gallons
yeah,
per day.
and their expansion, and so this, it came back to, and Chad was there at the last meeting, and my comment to them when they asked for the increase was, we need to hold them to task, because we can't go back to
Yeah.
our residents all the time. We just set ourselves up, and you know this with sewer, and it's very frustrating to deal with it. Part of the problem they came with, and I'm not picking on the management team, but I will pick on the management team there. I just think this thing is way beyond their control. And they've done some things that they were recommended by these so-called experts. And we're paying for that, some of that mistakes. And Chad, correct me if I'm wrong, is the outside agencies, the firm from Holland, they came in and tried to fix this thing. And again, this was, I said enough is enough. According to them, they're still under their initial budget to build this thing. But that means that you were there, and now you're asking for more. Oh yeah, but we're under our initial budget. They're like a couple of dollars under their initial budget. This was, they want the whole pie.
Well, I mean, you know my frustration, that's why I appointed you to be on that board, because they wouldn't let me in anymore, but I just having a hard time figuring out if I can get 12 million gallons a day for 44 million, why did 2 million more gallons a day cost me $72,000?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have the history
right.
of that organization when this was done. This was a couple years ago when they finished this project. I know they added in specialized treatment to try to reduce the amount of sludge and the drying, and that's part of the technology they're struggling with right now. So, and I'm not sure how much that increased the cost. But again, when you go from 12 million to treat another 2 million, it can be a significant economy of scale, you know, because you're enlarging everything in processes, etc. But I apologize if I don't know the specifics.
Okay.
But I do understand your point.
I know you do. That's why I'd like to see us take this over. Just give you a real project to run.
Mr. Mayor,
Go
go back
ahead.
to your initial question in terms of how much capacity we currently own. If you look at the JPA, page 15, it does show that we currently have 2.2 and 2.5.
Okay,
So I believe the information on the staff
the
report
part is correct.
Yes.
Okay. So the bright side is we're good for capacity for quite a while.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Second. Was that a motion?
Sure. I'll make the motion, Cheryl.
Second.
Councilmembers Hannah,
Yes.
Grunmeyer,
Yes.
Bash,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoffman,
Yes.
Mayor Newton.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. We'll now go into public comments. Are there any cards?
Yes, Mayor. The first speaker is Justin DeWale from Assembly Member Sabrina Cervantes' office.
Evening, Justin.
Evening, Mayor, Council. Not too much update legislatively from our office. Summer recess is almost over. The legislature is back in session next week. We do, however, have a couple more district events coming up this week. We're having an open house at our new office on North Main Street in Corona tomorrow evening, 5 to 7 p.m. And then on Friday, we are having our senior scam stopper at the Corona Public Library, 2 to 4 p.m. So do come out and tell your friends and neighbors about both those events. Thank you.
I have one comment for you that
Yeah.
I always forget all these little things I go to. And last Saturday, went to the 5th anniversary of the Sons of Liberty. And the city did give a plaque, and Justin was up there and gave a plaque from the Democratic Party, and
Which was really weird.
but you did good.
Thank you. It was the state assembly,
I know
but
that.
might as well have been, I suppose.
It was great.
It was a tough call.
I did tell Justin we would not boo him tonight.
You know, the root beer was great. The root beer was really good.
Thank you, Justin.
Gregory Daniel.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I'm here to discuss a matter on MDP Line N-7 project, which is on Reservoir. It's come to my attention that the work they're doing out there, according to your city standard laws, it says if any existing utilities interfere with the new project, all my work must stop, and they must start figuring out a good way to resolve it. Unfortunately, this is not happening on our street. They're coming out, they're trying to put in the new storm drain line. There's 3 homes, including my own, that are being interfered with by the existing, or the new storm drain line that's coming through. Our line is sitting basically in the middle of this new storm drain line. The city inspector who was out there on site, Dan, comes out and he says, oh, we're just gonna turn around and put a siphon underneath it. Okay, I work in construction, been in the business for over 35 years. Okay, I know the code's inside now. You cannot put a siphon in. You can put a lift station in, you can do a lot of things, but putting a siphon underneath it and creating an area where sewage is gonna sit underneath that line, backfeed the fumes and everything back into the homeowner's property, and also cause an area to be clogging is not reasonable, and it's against the Green Book laws for the state of California. Dan's response was, we've done this before in other areas in town. I tried contacting, I got the notice that they were going to start this work on the 9th of this month. The notice came on the 9th, no pre-warning. Everything just happened at once. They were supposed to be doing potholing. Instead, they came in and started demolition. You know, the way they just come in and do whatever they want to, with no care for the residents, is beyond belief. And their resolve that they gave me was, we're gonna put in a siphon because we've done it before. Well, that doesn't make it legal, it doesn't make it right, and it doesn't conform to standards. In your own words here in the city of Norco, everything must stop until they find a reasonable resolve that meets standards. And the resolve that they're trying to bootleg in right now does not meet city standards. And this is not the first time they've done stuff like this, but this is a permanent structure that's going in now. And I'm not gonna have my home, or my neighbors also are concerned about this, turn around, creating a problem that is against all city standards, even through the state of California. And the fact that I've tried calling Mr. Nelson on the 9th about it, I have never received a call back. I'm just getting shoved aside. I had to come to city council for somebody to actually listen to me. And I said, I'm having my attorney draw up something, and we have to file a civil class action suit to get this resolved. My neighbors are in agreement with me, we will resolve it, because you can't just go about do things against city standards or state standards. Thank you.
Okay. Let me say this, that we're not allowed to comment, being that it's public comments. If you have any specifics that, if you have time tonight after the meeting,
I would
if
be
you'd like to
more
meet-
than happy to sit
right,
down with you.
if you'd like to meet with our public works director and city manager for a few minutes. I just wanted to make that clear to you, so
I'd be
I
more than happy.
appreciate that. But what I would like to ask council, and if you want to have a seat, I think make yourself comfortable, is that in an effort to communicate and listen to residents that take the time to come to speak to us at the podium under public comments, I did ask, because I was aware of this, and I spoke to your wife who called me earlier this morning.
Yes.
I did want to just have our public works director just address this generally, very briefly, and also ask that the city manager at some point with this situation, that with engineering and once that site condition can be evaluated, that perhaps we reach out and then meet with the affected homeowners.
Okay, the only thing
Once everything was,
yeah, the only thing I'm concerned about is in the city standard for the notes, it says if anything, utility comes in as conflict, and they've known about the conflict for a few days now, that all work will stop until they do a resolve. They're not stopping work, they're proceeding and they're still doing things. And they're planning on coming through and just bootlegging this into my property unless something is done immediately. And that's why I took the step to come down here today, because they're just ignoring it and going on with it. And that's not the way it is, and that's not the way it reads inside of Norco standards, and it's not the way it reads in the Green Book standards.
correct.
And the fact that I had to come here to get some resolve, it's a bit aggravating, but like I said, I work in the trade and I know what's legal and I know what's not, and what they're trying to do is not legal, and they can't just throw us under the bus. The other neighbors and residents who they've done this to, who are without knowledge, are probably having to have a sewer guy come out and clean up their sewage periodically. Dan said, he goes, we've done this to other homes in the neighborhood. And if you've done it to other neighbors, those neighbors don't know there's a problem. And if they're paying for a guy to come out and clean their sewer all the time, heaven forbid.
Right. Understood.
Thank you.
I understand that. Thank you so much. Chad?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regards to the capital projects, when there's conflicts in a contractor, when he goes out and he may hit and realize there's a lateral in his way or a gas line in the way, again, project does stop. You work with the inspector, you work with the engineer, and you come up to a resolution on how you're going to resolve the conflict. That's what's been done here. It's been done in every other project we do. That conflict isn't resolved with the resident. The lateral belongs to the city. The resident by code is obligated to maintain the lateral. And why I'm not concerned about this issue in regards to use the siphon, it is a customary practice to do. It is done all over the state. It's not against the Green Book. We have conversed with many engineers because this issue came up, and they reaffirmed it's not a problem. It is commonly done. And actually the resident is protected in this case because in our own municipal codes it states there's two instances where the city is obligated to maintain the lateral. Is when tree roots block the lateral, or when there's determined to be a defect in the construction of the lateral by the city or its contractor. In this case, if the siphon was deemed to plug or became an issue because of the siphon in some way, and again, we would camera it, verify it, the city would be obligated to clean it and remove that debris, not the resident. That's the only two instances, so the resident's protected if it occurred, and we cameraed it, verified what the issue was, and it was deemed to be an issue with the siphon, the city's obligated to maintain it. So the resident is really protected against any issues for them that have to deal with in this case. But the use of siphons is very common. And it's very unusual to go the other route where we would make a change where we now have to stop a project, go to the resident, have to do improvements on their property, which now means we bought those improvements basically for life because we made those improvements. And what I'm referring to is if we raised up his lateral a little bit higher so we can go over the pipe, because right now it's got a certain angle, we have to change his pitch to get over the existing, the storm drains being put in. Well, now we're talking about basically owning that repair forever on his property. We focus on only saying within the city right of way for liability purposes primarily. We don't want to do that. So what we propose to do is absolute normal practices. We did deal with the issue in that there's determined to be a conflict. We go out, look at it, figure out it, and then we determine the issue. It's not something that's determined with the resident because it's still the solution is still a very functional solution and they're not impacted. In this case, if they were impacted, it's easy to prove and the city would be responsible for maintaining.
When you do a siphon, and I don't want to belabor all this, I'll get to Andy in 1 second. When you do a siphon, do you put a clean out near that in the street?
Normally what we do in that case, we put a clean out near the property line.
Okay.
So they can easily be cleaned out from that point going back towards the main.
Okay. So Andy and I had a discussion about having a meeting and at least having Dominic look at this? Is that
Yes,
still our plan?
suddenly I think Chad today called an engineer at Dominic's office.
Dominic was unavailable, but I talked with his lead
Dominic was
engineer.
available, and he did confirm that the protocol we're undertaking is perfectly okay. Didn't see a problem with it.
Are we allowed to ask questions or?
We really shouldn't get.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
I didn't want us to go too far into it.
But I didn't want to convey this is an ongoing project, and any delays in the project could cost the city even more money because the contractor gets impacted. So we
I mean, I understand that, but I want us to, and it's not only one residence, it's 3 residents that are impacted, and I want us to be able to reach out, and whether it's, you have Dominic's firm do a drawing or something, describe it, show it, and that council be kept in the loop on this. I just want to see a little more communication in this matter.
Can I ask a general question?
And you
Absolutely.
can also ask staff to follow up on that.
Okay, so let's just generally speaking, so how would, let's say they have a problem, how do they show that they have a problem? I mean, not to be graphic, is it sewage backing up in their house, or do they have to prove they have a problem, or how does that work?
correct, it's the property owner's responsibility. They would hire a plumber, because they have a backup somewhere, they're not sure where it was, they're not sure if it's roots, what it could be. They would hire a plumber, the plumber would video the line, determine what the blockage was, and then we get that video. It turns out if it was tree branches, we clearly see it. We pay for all the remediation that was done.
The cost of
Yep.
finding the, if it turns out it's theirs,
Whole
do we reimburse them for the, if it turns out to be, so for the plumber and everything, would we reimburse them?
Correct.
Well, I just want to be kept in the loop on this, so thank you. That's all.
Okay, yeah, I know we can't go too far on this, but I'd like to see us just have a level of communication with council and the homeowners. Okay? Thank you, Chad. Sharp?
Coleen Daniel.
Good evening.
Good evening. Mine's not on that. Mine's a little different,
Okay.
because I had forgotten all about this. He did mention how we received a letter. The letter was printed on August 3rd, and then it was mailed out, post-dated on August 7th. We received the letter on August 9th. Okay, I had called, okay, this was the letter to telling us that they're gonna start work. Great, we've been waiting for it. I had called several months, I had called last year. Is my tree going to be cut? Can I move my tree if it's gonna be cut? Big O save on the ground. Tree was not to be cut. On the 10th, I wake up, my tree is dead, cut down on the ground. Watering that tree for 20 years, fruit off of it because it was graft. Greg, my husband, had promised Mrs. Herrera, when he bought the home almost 20 years ago from her, he would baby that tree. Her husband grafted that tree. Her husband babied that tree. He told her, I will do everything I can to make this tree fruit. She even would come by several years later, okay? Her husband passed away on a horse accident around the corner. Anyways, so when I called the city several months ago and I said, listen, I need to know, is the tree gonna be moved? What's gonna happen? We can move it. Oh no, the tree's fine. It's not in the way. No notice, no nothing. I think that something needs to be done. Okay, isn't it when the contractors get the bid, they have 45 days, they've gotta go ahead and contact back, giving them their plans and all that kind of stuff, to what they're gonna do, when they're gonna start this and that. Don't you think that the residents on that whole block, not just our block, we're talking the other part of Reservoir, Willow, whatever, every single resident should know at least 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, or when a bid is gonna start, are we supposed to start going online and looking, oh, what's Norfolk gonna do now? Who's gonna bid, what job, what's this? What's gonna go down on my property? Even though it's the horse trail, yes, we're responsible. How responsible are we? I stopped watering that side almost 2 years ago. Weeds grew this high because I tripped over the one drain thing that they put up. So who takes care of that property? The resident does, the homeowner does. And for them to come out and just kill the darn tree, something needs to be done. We're losing trees like crazy around here. And honestly, our whole block looks really crappy now. When you come around the curve, dead. You know, is this what's supposed to be Norco? Anyway. And I put that onto Chad's line up and down. Okay, because I called and I called, left messages. Nobody ever returns. I was grateful you returned my call today. Thank you, Andy. And you returned my call. Thank you.
Thank you. And city manager and I did have a discussion about trees today, so. Cheryl.
Raul Morales.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. You asked for the other neighbor, and I'm here.
Hey.
I kind of got a lot of the questions I had answered tonight. Mr. Daniel's neighbor. My only concern is on that siphon. I want to make sure it gets done the right way, and if that is the right way. My only concern is, the siphon is going to keep retaining stuff all the time there, and I'm sure nobody would like that smell of that stuff going back to that pipe into the residence for the family to be, smelling that stuff. So I know you guys have city codes. I'm not an engineer or anything like that. I just want to make sure it gets done the right way. And if that is the right way, as long as it's not going to cost me any money down the road where we're going to end up spending money on plumbers. And like you said, yeah, they're going to send the plumber, but the bottom line is you're going to have to spend money to try to resolve that problem. So, like I said, some of the questions were answered before I even came up here.
Okay. Certainly appreciate your time, and
Thank you.
you're welcome to come by anytime with your concerns.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt Woody.
Hi, Matt.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, Council, and to all the residents and citizens that are gathered. Just wanted to say hello. I'm glad to be here tonight to hear about some of the business going on in the city. It was great to see the council and Mr. Z recognize Kara. She's been doing great work for a long time, and obviously right here in Norco. So the reason I'm here is just to introduce myself to people. I know I've met a few of the people I've seen here tonight. I've seen a few faces that are familiar, but again, my name's Matt Woody. I'm running for Congress here in the area, hoping to provide a realistic challenge to our longtime congressman. I know Councilmember Bash referenced him briefly in his comments, and hopefully he's responsive to the council. I don't feel he's very responsive to the citizens of our district, and regardless. But I will be out meeting lots of people here for the next several months, 10 months or so, up until the election. And I'm looking forward to chatting with people in more detail, creating good relationships. I'm trying to bring the kind of relationship that you all seem to have with the citizens of Norco here to a wider scope of not just Norco, but Corona, Elsinore, Murrieta, Temecula, Menifee, all the residents of our district, and really keep the focus on the people and on the Constitution of the United States. So that's me in a nutshell. I'll be happy to speak with everybody later on and in the future. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And
Bonnie.
best of luck.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
Okay, it's not that.
Bonnie Slager.
Hi, Bonnie.
again, I just want to remind everybody to get their fair buttons. It's only a couple weeks till the fair. They're $10 pre-sale, $15 at the gate. And also, Councilman Hoffman mentioned the rodeo this weekend, but my favorite part of the rodeo is on Sunday afternoon, the Challenge Children's Rodeo. If you can all help with it, Jean said be there at 3 o'clock. So come out to help with the rodeo. That's really a lot of fun. And tomorrow night is our monthly Norco Horsemen's meeting, and our speakers are some of the children that are going to be, will have their animals at the auction at the fair. So it's always fun to hear the kids talk about their animals. So I hope you can all join us tomorrow night for our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Kay O'Mara.
Hi, Kate.
Hi, good evening, council members and mayor. Issues. I respectfully request the following items to be put on your agenda for a vote. Resolutions. Number 1, please reinstate the action where the city of Norco shall hereby require that E-Verify for all city hiring and all businesses in the city of Norco, and for those company employers wishing to do business in the city of Norco. Number 2, please vote resolution that the city of Norco will not be a sanctuary city, and it will uphold the federal laws of the United States of America. Number 3, vote resolution to support the Voter Fraud Commission, which has been set up by President Trump and is chaired by Chris Kobosh, the Secretary of Kansas, and co-chaired by Vice President Pence. Please vote to assist, support, and assist them in our city and Riverside County by all the means you have available to them in their actions to purge the fraudulent votes in our country. Number 4, please take action against Assemblyman Cervantes for the intentions so stated in her public ad in the Press Enterprise Sunday, August 13, 2017. Her words are insulting and are full of hate to promote the agenda of turning California into a sanctuary state and to go against the federal laws of immigration of the United States of America. As a matter of fact, how about taking action to stand against all the bills and the propositions of the governor and the legislators that have been passed by this legislation of California to stop the enforcement of the laws of this nation. And number 5, please vote that this community will not disobey federal immigration law or any federal law thwarted by the legislators of California. We must now stand together as a community to uphold the rule of law in our city, our state, and in our nation. And I thank you in advance. And I am not a bigot, and nobody is a bigot in the United States of America for wanting to uphold the rule of law in this nation. Take that to your little Miss Cervantes. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
That concludes public comments.
Thank you, Cheryl. Okay, let's move into public hearings. Item 5A. This is going to be on ordinance number 1025, first reading. Chad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a follow-up to the presentation that was done by Deborah Cog regarding the Nexus study that was recently developed. As part of that process was revising the rules of the TUMP program. So this ordinance basically rescinds all the previous ordinance we had for basically the program mechanisms for the TUMP program. They've now been reshaped based off of the member agencies and their input. And now we're seeking council's approval on this ordinance to adopt the new TUMP language, which is basically going to be the implementation mechanism of how we can assess potential charges to new development.
Thank you, Chad. Does council have any questions for staff? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Cheryl?
I don't have any cards on this item.
Thank you. I'll close the public hearing and bring it back for any discussion and action.
Motion to approve. Second.
Is this, I need two motions, Mayor, I just want to be clear.
Right, because this is,
Just the ordinance. Okay.
It's two items, we only discussed the TUM document first.
Oh, I'm
because
sorry.
I think we wanted to get them.
did you want to do them separately, I thought?
I just need two motions, one for the ordinance and one for the resolution. I just want to be clear on the motion,
So you ready, we need another motion right now?
just for the ordinance. I just want, okay. Councilmember Hannah?
Yes.
Sorry, before we vote, should the ordinance be read by title?
Yes, I apologize.
Thank you. This is an ordinance of the City of Norco, California, amending Chapter 3.50 Western Riverside County Transportation Uniform Mitigation Fee Program to update participation in the Western Riverside County Transportation Uniform Mitigation Fee TUMP Program, Code Amendment 2017-09.
Councilmembers Hannah?
Yes.
Grunmeyer?
Yes.
Bash?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoffman?
Yes.
Mayor Newton?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The second item on this topic is the actual adoption and approval of the resolution for the actual fees that the TUM program will assess. So the fees are carried separately by resolution so they can be easier to modify in the future if they ever need to be changed. There are a couple revisions that we did last minute referencing, I want to point this out, you should have in front of you regarding the start dates of some of these fees. On page 3, which is section 2, we are changing the start date of these fees to December 1st, 2017. In section B, again, same start date, December 1st, 2017. And on the back page, in section 5, it talks about the effective date of the resolution. And the key on this is we want to start the fee that's related to the retail commercial to be effective as the 30 days occurs after the ordinance has been adopted. So that would be effective, actually it should be October 6th in conjunction. So this should be October 6th. It says October 1st, I apologize, it should be October 6th. And then the rest of the rates will go into effect on December 1st. So that means all the current rates that we have by resolution are still in effect. The only one that changes effective October 6th will be the retail commercial rate. The other rates will stay in effect because honestly they're lower until the newer fees come into effect December 1st. So hopefully some of these projects that are coming through will get in a little better a rate on those charges, but they will become effective on December 1st. So those are the changes I wanted to clarify and ask for your approval of this resolution.
Thank you, Chad.
And Chad, just to clarify from the presentations, the retail rates are actually lower under the new schedule, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to ask,
Just want to ask my question on the rates. So anything that's in the queue now that's already being proposed, these rates won't affect them until December 1st is what you're saying? Are the one, the date, December 1st, right?
Depends on when you pull your permits.
Is that why, that's what I'm asking, okay. That's why I just want to know when they pull the permits, that place, okay, that's what I need, thank you.
The lowering of the rates was actually pretty, a lot of discussion, where it's a really good thing, so. Yeah, no, but I just meant that at the WRCOG level and staff really listened and figured out a way to do it, and we got a lot of buy-in from the building community too.
yeah. I mean, the commercial was getting pounded.
Right.
That's the biggest help, I think. Cheryl, do we need anything else? Just a motion? We're okay, public hearing wise, and everything? Okay.
Move to approve. Second.
Councilmembers Hannah?
Yes.
Grunmeyer?
Yes.
Bash?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoffman?
Yes.
Mayor Newton?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, Chad. Item 5B, ordinance 1026.
I've got that. Mr. Mayor, members of the
Thank you,
council.
Brian.
This is an ordinance to amend section of our code 16.12.015 related to the number of dogs on a lot. There was some ambiguity in the code section, so we worked with the city attorney to develop, to remove that ambiguity. For a number of years, we haven't had any issues, but recently in some citations that were issued, the administrative hearing officer recommended that it needs to be clearer. So we went back to the city attorney to clarify that. That's what this ordinance does, is really clarify that particular part of the language which references a kennel in the previous ordinance. So it really clarifies that if more than 4 dogs is unlawful. So that's really what we've done here in this ordinance change. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Any questions for staff? I just had one. I always thought it was 4 dogs. Is that the urban legend, or?
No, you cannot have more than 4 dogs. It's unlawful. And that's where the language, the issue was that the way the law read is defining maintaining more than 5 dogs on a property, but what it meant is you can't have 5 or more, and that's where the ambiguity came into play. So we've never had an issue till recently with the language, but in the recent hearings we've had, it was recommended that if that is the intent, it needs to be clearer in the language. And so we did not favor in 2 particular hearings related to that. And so with this change, it makes it very clear that it's unlawful to have more than 4 dogs.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? This is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing.
No cards on this item.
Thank you, Cheryl. I'll close the public hearing, bring it back for any further discussion and action.
Move to approve.
Second.
This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Norco, amending Norco Municipal Code Section 612010 to establish the maximum number of dogs per lot, Code Amendment 2017-10.
Councilmember Tanna?
Yes.
Grunmeyer?
Yes.
Bash?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoffman?
Yes.
Mayor Newton?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Cheryl. We'll now have City Council, City Manager, Staff Communications. Kevin?
Just a couple things briefly. I'm a little confused at Streets and Trails level. My understanding is they were going to interpret, codify, whatever you want to call it, how we're going to deal with the municipal code states that the people take care of the trails in front of their homes. And I don't know if that's being worked on or not, but I'm a little concerned because personally, I think as I said, we're either going to support our trails or we're not. And I would like to see Streets and Trails finally deal with the question. Are we going to have people, as our code says, not real clearly, take care of the trails, and in fact, even answer the question of people across the street from the trails? In other words, it's a community asset. I'd really like that question to be answered once and for all, and then we decide whether or not the trails are truly important, which I think they are, and if we're going to maybe adequately or some way find a way to fund them. One of my suggestions had been that people have the option, if they choose, to take care of the trail themselves, enforce the code. It doesn't have to be the construction standard, or we create an entity in which they can pay a few dollars a month and we take care of the trail for them. Or if they don't take care of their trail, then what we do is we come in and we take care of it. We bill them the exact amount they would have paid for that. I don't know what the solution is, but I really do believe that if we don't take care of large lots to trails to open space, we're going to be in trouble. And so I'd like to see, if council agrees, I'd like to see that question answered at the street and trails level and give us a recommendation of what their opinion is. Secondly, I'd like to know the status of the manure to energy plant that we've talked about. I'm not even sure who's on that committee right now. I think Greg is. Who's with you, Greg? I'm reading about all kinds of new stuff. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know if it's just the, it has to be true if it's on the internet. But I really think that we need to look at that and find a solution if it's out there, and just maybe get an update. I'm not sure what the status is. But those two issues I think are critical